my goodness. Sorry, my eye was partially open while I was sleeping last night, so if I keep blinking my right eye, I'm not signaling you, it's just that my eye is in pain. This video is not monetized. I would never monetize a video about tragedies that occur. I would not. For those of you that don't know me and the videos that I make, I am an expert in field theory. I've written books on field theory and articles, and also 2 electrical theory. I'm saying this for sake of that I'm not jumping on the bandwagon afterwards. Daily Mail and other places have actually come out with one of the power guys in the area of the Los Angeles basin. His name is Bob Marshall. He gives you accurate information, but he doesn't know the chain of causation. I posted this on my Substack at the very end of the audio Substack. It's called LA Fires, The Luxury of Insanity, in addition to which I posted that very late into the evening on the 8th of January. Technically it says the 9th, but I also too talked about it the last 2 live streams. This information was just breaking out a few hours ago. So I just want to establish chain of causation. I was talking about what caused these fires many days ago, before any of this stuff ever popped out. There'll be people in the comments that were in the last 2 live streams that I did where I actually said what the chain of this causation was, which is not due. Anyway, I'll get to Bob Marshall and talk about what actually caused it here right after I read what he said. Bob Marshall, Chief Executive of Whisker Labs, monitors electrical activity, saw spikes and faults hours before the Eaton Palisades and Hearst fires. And by the way, there's video proof. I posted it on my Facebook, and it's out there. They all occur, all 3 main fires, at the exact same time. Not kind of close or sort of close. Exact same time. 100% impossible for that to naturally occur. Let me repeat again. It's not my opinion or a feeling or a belief. It's 100% impossible for that to occur. What caused it? I'm getting to that here. Let me finish reading what he actually says. Marshall said data showed the power was not immediately shut off after the fault surged, and this is where he's wrong. He said, may have been caused by tree limbs touching the wires or wires blowing the wind into the power lines. That's not it, and I've actually posted that on my Facebook too, and there's a guy filming out into his backyard, but there are 3 such videos, but that's the best of the 3 that I've seen from different locations. The worst hit, Pacific Palisades area, there were 63 faults in the 2 to 3 hours before it ignited, with 18 coming in the hour before it started on Tuesday. Eaton Fire near Altadena saw 317 grid faults in the hours. This is where they actually are able to detect surge spikes, where there's actually discharges or groundings. It's like, well, what charged the grounding? There's actually many ways you could actually cause this fault to occur, and I'm going to get to that in a second. The chain of causation, which I was the first person to talk about this, and I got live stream proof of the thousands of people that were there over 2 days, and also too the late January the 8th Substack post that I did. It was an audio, but towards the end of the audio, I said what actually was the chain of causation, what caused these. 317 grid faults. Marshall said of the Hearst fire saw around 230 grid faults on a typical day. He said the company registers only a few. Well, obviously so. This creates a spark in a fault, and we detect all those things, Marshall said. Faulty electrical equipment, that's not the case. Sudden surge in electrical demand or earthquake tremors, also 2 chains of causation. They actually have these. There were no trees blowing into the lines. The one video that I got posted on my Facebook, some guy filming out of the back of his house, there are at one point in time 6 different sparking nodes where nothing is even close to the power lines, much less touching them. It's not. These actually look like, of course, they're sparking into the ground, and that's where the fire started. But what caused it? I'm getting to that immediately here. It looks the same way. Real welding doesn't create sparks, real professional welding, but they do that for TV and movies. You see somebody welding and you see the big sparks flying out. They do that on purpose. They ignorantly weld for dramatic effect for TV. Everybody's seen that, and this is what you actually see in the videos. And what the cause of this is, and this is technology, and it's very, very brilliant if you're an evil person. Okay? Very brilliant if you're an evil person. Because it leaves no trace. Now you could say, well, the fire started over here, we know it kind of migrated over here. That's determinable regardless of anything. But if you go there, you know, the power line's not cut. Like, well, you know, the power line got cut because the tree fell on it and it hit the ground, and then that's where the fire started, because the power line's laying on the ground, or the power line's cut, which has happened and it has started fires. The power line's cut. Power line's not cut. If you actually show up there, you won't see anything. You have no idea. Well, we know it kind of started over here. You know, we can't see anything, though. Those little welding sparks, which is not from welding, that landed in the brush, this is not dew. People go, oh, it must be dew. No. And by the way, in this video, I have to make a disclaimer that this is my conclusion. You know, I stick to this conclusion and statements, what's causing the fires, and I'm about to explain the intricacies of that without going too deep and boring you to death. But this is, on my part, speculation. You know, also too considering the fact that I'm an expert in field theory and I've written books on field theory, and I'm an expert on electrical theory. So this is what caused it. Also too, yeah, leaves no trace. This is 8 to 15 core aluminum twisted transmission lines. The investigators will go out there and look. They'll assume that at the very best, well, the tree limbs must have swung into it, caused the lines to spark. No, and you will say, and think, rightly so, well, it was super windy, up to 100-mile-per-hour gusts from Santa Ana winds, and that blew the trees into the lines. This is what everybody would assume. I got the video proof that as soon as I saw that, I knew what it was. This is 100-year-old technology. Talked about, and you could download the book for free. It's called The Theory and Calculation of Transient Electrical Phenomena and Oscillations by Charles Sprodius Steinmetz. Very brilliant man, way smarter than Tesla, actually. He's the guy that actually perfected our AC transmission systems, because when we actually, early days of AC power transmission, enormous amounts of power would just vanish into nowhere, literally counter space, literally aground. But where? It wasn't grounded out. I mean, there's nothing blown down. They actually had to determine these constructive and destructive interferences. Is the reason why we had to set up substations. This is the reason why we actually had to make the alternating current of the AC transmission lines slightly out of phase so that they wouldn't cause mutually destructive enormous amounts of loss of power, where we have a destructive interference, and you send a bunch of power down the lines are intact, but you know, there's enormous amounts of power that's vanishing into nowhere. Literally, it's grounding itself out in counter space due to destructive interference. But, here's the crux of this video. But, the issue stems from the fact that you can actually induce a nodal current into the power lines, and it's constructive nodal surges, the same way the circuit of light works. The way these atomistic fools of academia, you know, came up with the idea of a photon. They're actually the longitudinal rarefactions and compressions part of the circuit of light. And electrical transmission, which has a frequency, just like light, and most of electricity, of course, most of light is a magnetoelectric circuit, but it also has longitudinal pulse perturbations, and every time there's a compression in the circuit of light, this is the ignorance of academia came up with it. Photon, that's a photon, look at that. Kind of like a pearl on a necklace. But if you induce a current, and it doesn't have to touch anything at all. Yeah, I don't have my Apple Watch here or your electric toothbrush. They use induction coils. They're not actually touching, yeah? You know what an induction coil is? Go look up induction coil. Wireless power transmission. Well, if you induce a current in an AC power line, what it'll do is it'll create these constructive nodal surges. And because the AC transmission lines, whether it's 8 twist or 15 twist on the conventional AC power, it sparks and arcs between each aluminum core of the power distribution lines that run behind your house, run behind my house. It's extremely brilliant. And they arc between each other, between the 8 to 15. It depends on the power line, how far away the substation is, a bunch of useless variables you certainly don't care about. It looks and it sparks, it is sparking into the ground and causing the fires. But these are not trees hitting the lines. The one video is 100% clear. Nothing is even close to it. You induce a current, you know, as Captain Evil, you induce the current into the AC power line. This will build up these constructive nodal points where the wires, they're not really wires, they're 2 gauge to 0 gauge. They're really thick as your finger, essentially thicker than that. Basically, the thickness of your finger. They spark between each other. Those sparks arc out into the ground. Boom, there you have it. So, this is 100-year-old known phenomena. And we figured this out since 1920, even further back than that. I forget when this book was published, somewhere like 1922, Theory and Calculation of Transient Electrical Phenomena, where they had to solve out, we don't want to lose power. We want as much of it as possible from the generator to get to the distribution points, i.e. people's houses and businesses. So this is what caused it. All you have to do is induce a current. And it doesn't take super special machinery. It's quite expensive, however. It induces the current into the AC lines and it creates these energy nodal points, the spark. Because these compression points of electricity, and we're talking about enormous voltages and enormous amperages, they spark out from the wires. They're not designed to handle that. It's called constructive interference of electricity. There's even a more technical term for it, and even you could find the math for it in that book, which is a free download. It's on archive.org and other places by C.P. Steinmetz. Theory and Calculation of Transient Electrical Phenomena and Oscillations. I told everybody first, both in my Substack, which I have the link for below, which is free, and also too in the past 2 live streams. I said, listen, this is what caused it. Once again, I have to give a disclaimer before the end of this video. You know, this is my conclusion. You can call it a conjecture or speculation or pontification all you want, but that's what caused these fires. And the fact that the satellite video that shows all 3 major fires, which is what, Palisades, Eaton, and I forget the other, they started at the exact same time. Not kind of, sort of, but exact. That is 100% impossible for that to occur naturally. You draw your own conclusions. Okay? If you like this video, since this video is not monetized, the donation link is below. I'd like to hear from you. Have a good day, and best wishes to all the people. I lived in California for a couple years with my wife in East Bay in Emeryville, California, which is just east of San Francisco. California is very, very beautiful. You know, I know a bunch of rich people were affected by this, but, you know, mostly it's just regular, everyday people, so I'm not stupid to think that, oh, the rich people, you know, they could rebuild, they're rich. Most, 95% of the people affected are just, middle class, poor or poor people, and so I wish the best to everybody there. The serious issue is going to come when it's going to take, for them to be able to rebuild, the governmental interference from the red tape. You have to get a permit to rebuild. I mean, it takes months to years, in California especially. And that's just people, I'm not going to wait a year to rebuild my house. I'm leaving this state. Adios. Vaya con Dios. Bye-bye, California. That is 100% certainty. That's not my speculation at all. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.